Hey guys, we're back for another Spotlight series, and I am actually very excited about the guest that I have on our show today. His name is Dr. Greg Davis. He is a fantastic chiropractor in Lee Summit, Missouri. And if you don't know where that's at, that's South Kansas City in a little suburb, a really cool suburb here in South Kansas City. And he's actually my friend. I do networking with him and gotten to know him over the last year, and just found out how much of an amazing person he is. And I think he's going to bring so much value to our show today, to the Spotlight series, because he's been there, he's done that, and he actually has one of the fastest growing chiropractic offices in Kansas City. So he's with Essential Chiropractic in Lee Summit. Dr. Greg Davis, welcome to Business Spotlight. How are you today?
Thanks for having me, Joe. I'm doing great. I'm excited for this. I'm really looking forward to dive in and share some knowledge.
Awesome, awesome. Well, look, before I get started, just for our listeners, can you just let us know the bird's eye view of who you are, what your business is? Like, if we just kind of elevate it for a little bit and just kind of look down at who you are as a person, as a business owner, and your business, what would you say?
Sure. So first and foremost, I'm a Christian. I
Mm,
give all the glory, all the strength, all to God.
that's
And
awesome.
I'm a married man. I love my wife. Without my wife, I tell her all the time I'd be face down in a ditch dead somewhere. So I'm extremely thankful for her.
Hey,
And
you and I both.
yeah, hey, you got to recognize that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then on top of that, my business, we run a neurologically based chiropractic office. And when people ask you, oh, so you're backcracker, I always try to differentiate. No, we're not just Doc Brown on the corner who's doing the same thing for 25 years. We
Mhm.
actually focus on the nervous system, making a shift in our patient's health. My youngest patient's 9 months old. My oldest is 95 years old. So we
Wow.
treat everybody with the spine. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah. That's awesome because my next question was going to be like, what is neurologically based? And I think you summed it up right there. You take care of the spine and you don't just snap, crackle, and pop, right? Like you,
Right.
you make sure that you help them out, and that's awesome. Just so that people are aware of what chiropractics do, and I know it's about business, not about just chiropractic care, but how important is your spine to the human?
Yeah.
What does it control?
Well, the spine is the conduit for your brain. I mean,
Mm.
basically, if you're a computer person, the brain is the CPU and the spine's the keyboard. And the
Oh,
keyboard is giving data entry into the brain and receiving feedback from the brain. And your
wow.
spine does all of that. I could talk for hours about that, but I'll try to keep it simple. Your spine is the most important organ in the body. It connects to
Mm.
every other thing in the body.
Wow. I never heard it put that way, but now that you put it that way, it kind of makes a little bit of sense, right? That's pretty important for your body.
Yep.
So awesome. I know that after I got chiropractic care for a lot of injuries in law enforcement and things like that, it changed my life. So
Yep.
awesome. Well, talk to us about how you started your business, because I see it two ways: chiropractors and just anybody in the healthcare industry that become doctors for whatever specific focus they want to focus on. They have two choices. They can go and work for a big, company that can hire them, or they kind of go into business for themselves. So talk to us about that decision and why you made it.
Yeah. Entrepreneurialism has always been in my family. My dad's a funeral director. He operates three funeral homes. My brother has a lawn care company from the time that he was 15 years old, and he's up to 20 something employees. So,
Wow.
entrepreneurism is in my family. And what I really saw growing up is that it creates freedom. I mean, it takes
Mm,
work, but it creates freedom in your scheduling and your ability to be active with your family through having funds available and time available. So I knew I wanted to be a chiropractor. I knew I wanted to be a business owner. And how we got to where we are today, kind of where we started, was um, it's my journey is going to be a lot about my wife and I, because it's really
yeah.
that's where it's began at. Is we were dating in chiropractic school, and we got job opportunities in different parts of the country. I was in one of the most successful offices in the Northeast region, and she was actually in North Nashville, and she was
Oh
in one of
wow.
the biggest pediatric offices in Nashville. And we knew from the time we graduated school we wanted to own our own business,
Okay.
and that's why we took those opportunities. And again, this is all going to be about sacrifice too, because I'm sure you see it, Joe. You got to
Yeah.
sacrifice. If you're
Oh
not,
yeah.
one of my mentors says, if it doesn't bleed, it doesn't lead. So
Yeah.
we knew that we wanted to own our own business, and so we sacrificed to separate ourselves, do distance, and learned from some of the best. And
Mm.
we wanted to understand how they operate their businesses at a high level and still
Yeah.
had time for family and themselves. So we worked in the trenches for 3 years, really freaking hard, really
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
I'm
And
talking
that,
she, say again, go
okay.
ahead.
I was going to say that distance too that's a huge sacrifice, especially when you want to get married or if you're already married and you have to work separately and that far too. I mean, that's a huge sacrifice, and that comes with its own set of challenges, especially when your goal is to build a business one day with each
Yeah.
other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was part of our journey, but I feel like that made us, again,
Yeah.
it can do one of two things. It can break you or it can bring you closer together and understand
Sure.
that this is the person you want to be with. And I feel like it did the latter, obviously.
Wow.
Um,
Wow.
but
That,
yeah, so we understood that we wanted to have our own business. So we worked really hard. Like my wife was literally working 2 weekends a month for like 2 years.
whoa.
So talk about dedication. And
Yeah.
what we were doing was we were honing our craft as chiropractors and how to communicate effectively, how to be good doctors, but also understanding the most important aspects to running a business, which is having systems and procedures in place. So
Huge.
basically, we
Yeah.
took the playbook from them, we got engaged and moved our entire life here to Lee Summit.
That is so cool. That is so cool. You bring up a really interesting topic, which is a true topic. And this kind of either leads a company to burnout or not, is having strong and effective tested and measured systems in place. So that way you could actually run a business and not be the business, right? So
Yep.
that's kind of cool that you had that opportunity to, number one, see how your family did it, right? So that attracted you to the time and the freedom and the money that you were able to see, which is great. But obviously you have to do it for yourself. Just because you see somebody doing it doesn't mean that you're going to just snap your finger and that happened. But you gave yourself that time to make those sacrifices, learn from very successful practices, and then my guess is you moved out here and you attempted to basically mimic that, right? Just to
Yep.
duplicate those systems. And
Down to where the papers were in the office, where we put the pens, where we put the trash cans in
wow,
the adjustment rooms. Like we literally copied everything we possibly
whoa,
could.
wow. Look, I always say, and I'm sure you're gonna agree with me, but I always say that in school we learn that plagiarism is bad, but when you're an entrepreneur, it's like whatever works, copy it, right?
Yeah.
Like if you see something effective, copy it. And I know that for the most part, like when I was starting my startups and eventually when I started my first successful business a while back, like I started learning that entrepreneurs actually want to help each other. Like if you ask for help, the entrepreneur's like, yeah, dude, okay, don't do this, do that, do this, do that. And even people from my own industry were like, dude, let me help you out. Right. And so the fact that you went out for help, you copied the systems and you did that, that's kind of cool. But even then, I'm pretty sure that there's a side of entrepreneurship that you have to experience on your own and learn how to overcome. Just because you're copying systems doesn't mean that everything's going to flow into place right away. So can you talk to us about like how it started off, right? You set up your office, you did all the same things that you learned, but what were the parts of entrepreneurship when you started that maybe you had challenges with? And if you want to throw in there, like, what did you do to overcome those challenges?
Yeah. So I agree with you completely. Again, my phrase is anybody can have the best set of tools, but if you can't use them, it doesn't matter.
Boom. Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
So so we had the tool set, we had the skill set, but now we had to actually have a business.
Right.
So first and foremost, our biggest challenge was funding. I mean, it was
Mm.
a bear to try to get. We went to 9 banks. One of the weekends we came out and visited Kansas City on a Friday. We went to 9 banks to try to get a loan, and we got denied by 9 banks.
9 banks. Wow.
So, and we had a rock solid business plan. We had market research. We had our histories. So it was deflating.
Yeah,
So
I bet.
that
Shit.
was that was a challenge. So we ended up getting a little bit of help from my dad, who had a relationship with a community banker back in my little farm town,
Okay.
and so they helped secure a third of our funding. And then our banker, our loan officer, was a hustler, and she was new to the industry, and she was trying to prove herself to the banking community. And I'm like, okay, this is good because I know we can do it. I'm very confident we can do what
Yeah.
we're supposed to do.
Right.
And she worked her butt off and found some really cool loans through the state of Missouri that our loan number was loan number 69. And the guy who called us, he's like, dude, no one gets this loan. How did you do this?
Wow.
So,
Yeah. So you found the right person trying to prove herself, and she
yep,
went to bat for you. That
yep,
is awesome.
exactly. And whenever we paid those loans off, I called her and I was like, Shayla, I really appreciate what you've done for us. You've created what our dreams are. So
Mm,
anyway, that was the big challenge, was funding. Long story
yeah.
short, funding was difficult. And then on top of that, I feel like employees were difficult at the beginning because,
Oh yeah.
again, those are, this, employees are the X factor.
Well, they don't come with a manual,
Nope.
you know.
And it's your first time being a boss. So
Yeah. And
how do
that
you
doesn't come
train
with the
them?
manual either.
Exactly. How do you train them? How do you make sure they're saying the right things? How do you make sure they show up on time? Like, how do you hire? How do you go through hiring practices? That's all a challenge. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like having a community of business owners helped us to bounce ideas off that were maybe 4 or 5 years ahead of us, who are still in the trenches, still see the struggle, but they
Mm,
have done this before.
yeah. Yeah. So you say something interesting again, and I'm really loving how you're talking here, because it's going to help somebody. But you talked about surrounding yourself with other people that have years on you, right? Like, there's a saying that, if you mess up once, okay, cool. Like, you can learn from that. You mess up the same way again, that's on you. And if you keep doing that, then there's a term for that. I just not coming to me, but um,
Insanity?
yeah, kind of like that. Yeah, there's insanity, but there's a way that says a wise man will actually learn from other people's mistakes. So you go and seek out people that are willing to talk, and it's huge, because as entrepreneurs, if we want to be successful, it is super important that we choose our environment wisely. And when I talk about environment, there's so many factors with that, but what I'm talking to specifically are the people that you choose to talk to, you hang out with, you spend the majority of your time with, right? Like, if you're hanging out with losers, you're going to be the next loser. If you
Right.
hang out with a bunch of successful millionaires, you're the next millionaire. Billion, same thing, right? My mentor said that, how you're going to be in the next 5 years are going to depend on the books you read, the people you hang out with, and the choices that you make, and people you hang out with is pretty big. And I remember, when I started becoming successful as an entrepreneur, like, I really had to shift
Mm-hmm.
the physical environment, of
Yep.
people, working out, taking care of myself. So how important was that for you in the beginning? What are some things you had to do? And talk to us a little bit about mentorship, because I know that you have some really cool mentors.
Yeah, so it's extremely important to surround yourself with people who are kicking butt, because
Yeah.
if they're not kicking butt, if they're making excuses, well, you're going to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So again, more sacrifice. At the beginning, I just had to say no to going to a lot of weddings. I had to say no to going to
Wow.
doing a lot of things with my friends, and I had to miss, unfortunately, a funeral or two, which is obviously, it's terrible to think about that. But like, literally, we had $20,000 in our bank account and no income. That's all we had. We had nothing else.
Wow.
So it's like, this has to work. So um,
Can you pause right there? Okay,
yeah.
20 grand in your bank account. And for some businesses, that's 2 weeks worth of expenses and payroll and stuff like that. So that is I want the entrepreneur listening here to be like, okay, like, just because he says 20 G's in his bank account doesn't mean that that's a lot of money for some entrepreneurs. You said no income, meaning you knew where that 20,000 had to go, so you chose not to pay yourself, right? So those are
Oh
some of the
yeah.
other early sacrifices you had to make.
Yeah.
Um, Not
But I
going to
will
weddings,
say,
I'm pretty sure you pissed off a lot of people, right?
uh-huh. Yeah. Guess what? Those people didn't come to our wedding either.
That's kind of funny that you say that, but I mean, do you regret that right now?
I missed it, but no, because guess what? Our business is rolling right now. We have a
Mm,
long way to go, but we are doing way better than I would have ever dreamt we've ever been doing.
that's awesome. That's awesome. So yeah, I feel like sometimes as humans, like, we just think, society tells us the expectations we have to have, and if we're not willing to look outside of that box, like,
Look at
we're
society.
just
Do you want to be society?
right. Well, as an entrepreneur, I mean, we already have a low success ratio, anyways, right? And so if you're a successful one, you're like the top 10% of what people do, and I don't know that statistic to down to the 10%, but it's a very low percentage of people that get to where you're at too, and keep going. So I'm pretty sure that there's a lot of people listening to this that can relate to that. Um, So struggles. Now, $20,000 in the bank and no income coming in. What did you do about that? How did you get from there to here? What were some
Yeah.
specific things that you had to do in business? Let's talk tactics.
Yep. So we enrolled ourselves in Hustle University, if you want to call it that.
Okay.
And we worked our absolute butts off. I mean, before we opened our doors, our goal was to have 200 paid appointments for new patients before we opened our doors. So
Mm,
from February to May, we worked every weekend, every day, as much as we possibly could. And we got
mm,
to, I think, 193 appointments before, paid appointments before they came in our doors, before we even literally leased our building. So we were like, all right, we got the pipe filled up. Now we just got to get everything in place. So we hustled our butts off. So by the time we opened our doors, we had patients coming in day one. So
wow.
that incubation phase where it's easy to sit on your hands at home and say, oh, they're building the office. We got our funding. Things are going well. We'll
Mm,
just put the shingle up there and they'll just come in.
mm. Yeah.
Not going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Eh, So
I said, fill the pipeline up.
you filled the pipeline up. So how long did it take for, like, when you knew you were going to do it, and obviously the construction phase of your office, and sometimes that's what, like 3 to 6 months. What was
Yeah, it
it
was
for you?
about 3 months for us, 2 to 3
Three
months.
months. So you had 2 to 3 months to start your business already before the office opened up. Yep. And so you marketed your butts off. You got out there. You became, known in your community. You did everything you could for those 3 months, right? Because that's when the business actually started.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what were some of the most successful marketing strategies that you guys used? Um, and do you still use them today?
Yeah. I call it guerrilla warfare. You got to go
Mhm.
out there where people are. So anytime we could set up and we could do a vendor booth event where I could have a table and talk to people,
Mm,
anytime I could do a speaking engagement or we could share chiropractic with people. And one of our tactics was we do a fishbowl campaign where we would partner with a restaurant, put a fishbowl in their restaurant, and patrons would come and put their business cards in there. And then we would draw the business cards and cater food from the restaurant to those businesses. That was amazing because I mean the restaurant wins because you're buying food and exposing their food to more people who might not have
yeah.
ever been there. We get the chance to go and talk to them about chiropractic and what we can do for them and how we can help them a better life. And that was a big thing to fill the pipe up and keep the pipe going.
Mm,
And the vendor booths were really important. I mean, we did literally, and from February to December, we did like 54 vendor booth events on the weekends. So
wow.
it
Yeah.
was a lot.
Yeah.
But that's how we grew a business. I think in our second month of practice, our business saw 400 visits in 1 week.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
Congratulations. That's
it's a real number.
awesome. That
A
is a
real
huge
number.
number. So no wonder why you're the fastest growing, chiropractic office in Kansas City,
Yeah.
because of all that upfront work you had to do. Again,
Mhm.
sacrifice, right? And I'm
Exactly.
guessing that's where all the weddings were missed, right? Because you had to work those weekends on the booths, and you knew
Yep.
what the prize was. So,
Yep.
so that comes to my next question, which is, how important is vision, goals, planning for those goals? Like, how important is that to an entrepreneur for success?
Yeah, that's everything. I mean, we have big goals, we have big dreams. And I feel like if you're the one driving the boat,
Mm,
who's the one steering it? You
yeah,
are.
yeah,
You
yeah.
got to have the vision. And another thing that always goes through my mind is nobody's going to care more about your business than you do. None of your
Oh my God,
employees,
that's
none of
so
your team
true.
members. No one's going to work harder than you. No one's going to show up harder for your business than you are. So if you
Yeah,
come in laissez-faire and, oh, I'll kick the can on my business, or, oh yeah, I'll just put that off, like that's not going to fly. Like you're going to
right.
sink. You're going to be one of those 90% that fail. So you got to
Yeah,
be hustling. You got to care. And you got to know where you want to go. We've had a vision from day one of what we want it to look like, and we're working towards it.
yeah, yeah. And that business vision has to align to what your passions are,
Exactly.
or else the business will take over your life. In that
Exactly.
case. So
Or you'll
vision
hate it.
is, yeah, exactly, exactly. Vision is like that end goal, and it's like you could either look away from it or just keep your eyes on it and just not worry about what the waves are doing around you. Because that if that vision and that passion is strong enough, like nothing can deter you.
Right.
That's good.
Exactly.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years from now? Where do you see your practice? Where do you see your family?
Mhm.
Uh, you know,
So in 5 years, our goal is to have enough structure in our business to where my wife works maybe, so we have 8 shifts a week for our business. She wants to take off 2 shifts, not even go into the office, not do any work. I want that for her.
Wow.
Um, I want to have enough structure to where I can do patient care if I want to, because I do love patient care, but also this is a business and it needs someone to run the business and do things. So
Yeah.
doing more of the entrepreneurial work and helping to keep things going the way they're supposed to going and doing more managerial stuff.
Mm,
Um, but we have to have structure to do that. And so
okay.
continue to build up structure. And eventually we do want to retire by the time we're 50. So I think that if we can create structure and create scalability, that's going to be lucrative for whoever wants to come in and purchase an asset. So
Mm. Oh
that's
God,
kind
you
of
talk
our
about
big
something really
goal.
cool there. Yeah. Purchase an asset. I love your mentality of business, right? Because if you want to retire, your business can't be you. It has to be a valuable asset,
Yep.
right?
And it
Because
has to have
retirement,
procedure and systems. You have to put a dollar in and know much how many dollars you're going to get out.
yeah, yeah, and you can't be the actual business. Like
Right.
a lot of people think that they own a business, but they're really self-employed.
Mhm.
And when you're self-employed, that's just a fancy word for saying you have a job that you own, and
Yeah,
it might not even be paying you what another job could be paying you.
exactly.
Right? My mentor Brad Sugar says that entrepreneurs are the craziest people in the world. They're willing to work 80 hours for themselves in order to avoid working 40 hours for somebody else who is most likely willing to pay them more than what they're paying themselves for 80 hours, right?
Yep.
But the vision, right? At Hustle University. Um, you do things with your wife. So obviously you had to have some good conversations with her about that 3 years of hustle. I
Yep.
remember having to talk to my wife and said, hey, you might not see me as much, but I promise you, I'm going to get you this, 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 and this. And she'll even tell you, like, I've delivered on the majority of them. I'm still working on some. But I mean, that's my passion is to make sure that she is taken care of, my kids are taken care of, even after I'm gone, you know.
Yeah. And
Um,
that's one thing my mentor in New York said. He's like, but this was before when I was trying to get ready to leave New York. He's like, hey, man, if you just put your head down and work your butt off for 3 hard years, I'll tell you, you're going to
oh
be where
yeah.
you want to be. And we are in year 4 and a little
Woo.
over, and we are definitely far beyond where I thought we'd ever be.
That's awesome. So what do you want to use your business for then? Like you obviously want to retire. Those are those, you know, righteously selfish things that you want to do. But like
Yeah.
if I could really dig down into Greg Davis's heart and maybe even with your wife, like what are your ultimate like passions in life? Like what do you want to accomplish? And what does like the business has to fund that passion. So what are they?
Yeah. So filling up the morality tank is we want to see a community who has a massive health shift away from sickness and disease, drugs, surgeries, and just
Uh,
living a life of basic agony. Like
mm,
this breaks my heart when I hear it, but it fills me with joy. I've had 2 patients the last 2 months who said that I was on my way out. I was ready to be dead. But since I started getting adjusted and taking my health over, like, sorry, let me mute my phone.
all right.
Basically, they said once they've taken their life over and they felt better, function better, and regain their health,
Mhm.
they want to continue to live and like live a thriving life. And that's obviously the end goal. That's like a huge thing. But even just a subtle shift, helping a child that has migraines. I
Mm,
had a child start this week with care who's still having less migraines in 2 weeks. It's like that's the kind of stuff we want to do. We want to, my wife is, she wants to provide hope for the hopeless. You know, if someone's hopeless in their health and they don't have any a clue where to go, they've been everywhere, they don't have any options. We want to
yeah.
be a light to help them. So that's kind of our big dream. Obviously, the numbers, the money, everything, retirement, that's all going to flow. But if we keep our focus on our community and creating a
Yeah.
shift, that is
Oh,
what's going to drive us every day.
it'll happen. It'll happen if you keep your
Exactly.
focus there, and your business will be that vehicle to get you there. That is awesome. Awesome. Well, Dr. Greg, it was such an honor to be able to interview you. And I'm actually hoping to do this again with you. I had such an awesome conversation. There's so much more I want to unpack, but you know, I just want to get your basic thoughts on entrepreneurship. And you are a fantastic entrepreneur, my friend. I'm glad that I can know you personally.
Yeah.
Um,
Same to you, buddy. I appreciate you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So look, have a wonderful day. It is a Friday today, so have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you around soon. Yeah.
Sounds good. Thanks, Coach Joe.